Okay, it's 6:30. Welcome. Oh, Kwame's here. Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. I see Kwame, Mary, Carol, Michael, Alyssa, and Sandy. I miss anybody? No, Rod's not coming. So we're done. We've opened it up and off you go, please, Alyssa, the first one.
All right, Elisa.
Oh.
Public hearing. Just thought I'd get it in there. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6. Public hearing will be held on Wednesday, February 17th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Karen and Bruce Pierce, care of Lockwood Architects, P.O. Box 95, Onset, Mass, to construct additions located on Assessor's Map 1, Lot 1036, 17 West Boulevard, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this project?
Bill Lockwood, Lockwood Architects here for the petitioners.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bichette?
Sure, one moment. Sandy, it might be worth mentioning because there's some people on the line. Several of the hearings are going to be continued, so that way they don't stick around waiting for hearings that are going to be continued.
Okay, then all right. The Borrego Solar System hearing will be continued until when we vote on it, March 3rd, and the Tom Parento Solar Energy one will be continued until April 7th when we get to it. But you're welcome to stay in and listen to us go through our other meeting topics.
There's also two other ones, Sandy, that we got a request on. The peak contractors hearing has been requested to be continued, the one at 150 Cremisa Road, to the next meeting. And also the one for Samuel Mello at 9 Farrell Court has requested a continuance to the next meeting as well.
Okay. We will formally continue when we reach them, but thank you. So others, if you don't want to stay and listen. Okay. Off we go.
So this project site is at 17 West Boulevard in Onset, and the project involves the construction of additions at this location in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and a salt marsh, and also within a coastal flood zone. It's proposed to build a second floor addition and second floor deck over the existing footprint of the structure. And this is approximately 30 feet from the salt marsh and the coastal bank, and also within flood zone AE elevation 14. So in terms of what's there currently, is it true, Bill, that everything is just being built over existing structure, including the first floor addition that's going in? Or is there some area that's going to have to be altered on the ground?
It's all going in on top of existing structure, or in the place where existing structure is. So we'll be going up and we'll be enclosing space over existing deck and enclosing space on the second level.
So in terms of alteration to the ground, is there any footings and or foundation that has to be installed?
We may have to put in one footing, but we're trying to avoid that.
Okay. Yeah, so given the situation where this is all basically over the existing structures, I just wanted to clarify those points, but I don't really have a problem with the project. So I would recommend the approval of the project with the issuance of a negative determination number 2.
Thank you. Bill, did you want to add anything else?
No, I think Dave's right.
Okay. Questions on the board? Kwame? Oh, excuse me. Kwame and Michael, welcome aboard. You're now full-time voting members, so I will call on you more frequently now.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you,
Kwame,
Sandy. No questions. Thank you.
Mary,
No question.
Carol,
No questions.
Michael,
No questions.
Elisa,
Okay, very good, Sandy.
I'm trying.
I would like to know if there's any way that one can limit them putting in porches or whatever, which would require some sonotubes or whatever afterwards. I mean, except this project, but very, very often when we get somebody who builds on top of a porch, then they want the porch as well. And that sometimes is a problem. So I just sort of would like to mention that, see if anybody on the board has any other issues with it. But oftentimes somebody has a deck and a porch and they build up and it's beautiful. I mean, take a look at Briarwood, you know, going right down there, all the porches are extensions of porches and additions.
Yes, if they were to do any additional work into the land, they'd have to come before us. And I know there have been times in which we've denied them a deck because they closed in their deck as a piece of the house and therefore no longer have a deck. And I know we've denied them that because it was too close to the water. So they have to come before us if they were to do that.
But can we put something in this proposal to that effect? Because, I mean,
No,
I would want a deck there, you know.
not
Well,
re-
May
Sorry.
I add something?
yeah, go.
They still will have a good sized piece of deck remaining after we have done the work that we're intending to do.
Okay, great.
And because this is a request for determination, we do not have the same type of capability like we would for order of conditions to limit additional work.
Okay.
Okay.
But I think to answer your question, Elisa, like Sandy said, you know, they would have to get a building permit. They would have to come back in front of us. So we would get a second crack at it if they were to propose any changes.
Is there anybody on the line that would like to speak for or against this project? Hearing none? I'm hearing that I need to have somebody close the
Oh.
public hearing.
I move to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Kwame? Mary?
Yes.
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Elisa?
Yes.
Sandy, the hearing is closed.
I'd like to say that we'll accept the project with a -2. The project
Yes.
as presented with a -2 and any usual and unusual restrictions that we have.
Second.
Okay, that's the motion.
I already seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan's in the refrigerator, so I didn't hear it. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Elisa,
Yes.
Sandy, yes. So Bill, you got your approval. Don't start anything until you clear everything with David.
Will do. Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Have a good evening.
Okay, notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40.
You wouldn't put it up. You would put up if I did it.
Public hearing will be held on Wednesday, February 17th, 2021 at 6:30 PM on the notice of intent for the town of Wareham, care of Niche Engineering, 2 Center Plaza, Suite 430, Boston, Mass. To reconstruct the Elm Street Bridge over the Parker Mill Bond Dam's western spillway located on Assessor's Map 132 Elm Street, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this project?
Hi, yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Matt Stakewitz from Niche Engineering. I'm the senior structural engineer who's been leading the layout and design of the structural design of the culvert.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bichette will speak to the project and then we'll ask for your comments.
Excellent.
Okay, this project site is at Elm Street near Tremont Nail. And the project involves the replacement of a bridge culvert that conveys water from Parker Mill Pond to the Wankinko River. The existing box culvert under Elm Street is to be replaced, and this is in the buffer zone to Parker Mill Pond and the Wankinko River and to coastal banks. The pavement and the top of the existing box culvert are to be removed, and then a new smaller precast concrete box culvert would be inserted into the remaining part of the original box culvert. A temporary sandbag cofferdam would be installed on the upstream side of the culvert to limit water flow during construction. Water will still be allowed to flow through the other spillway, which has the fish ladder. Dewatering of the culvert area would be necessary during the installation of the new culvert. And any material that is needed for the project to be stockpiled at the site would be placed on the closed off paved area of Elm Street. It's anticipated that the project would be done at the same time the previously permitted bridge deck replacement over the other spillway, which has the fish ladder, is done. When that project was permitted, it did have a time of year restriction due to the herring run. And I would recommend that the same time of year restriction be imposed on this project. Erosion control is proposed along the limit of work. We did get a DEP file number for this. So I guess I just had a question. Are you waiting for any further comment from Division of Marine Fisheries on this, or were they not required to be notified?
Not on this project. It was required on the other project because of the fish ladder, but since this is not this particular spillway is not a cold water fishery, we're not waiting for any input from Division of Wildlife
you.
Fisheries.
Dave, for the record, can you indicate the time of year restriction?
Yes, March 15th to June 15th.
Thank you. Matt, would you like to add anything to those comments?
Thank you, David. That was very concise. A lot of what I already had planned to say. So again, this is, like I said, the similar to the very first project we did and was already permitted. The impact areas, the resource areas haven't changed since the first project. There's a bank to pond, obviously, along the pond, bank to stream under the channels. Obviously, everything is within the 100-foot bank to buffer zone to the bank and the 200-foot riverfront area. Overall, like David said, we are proposing to put a slightly smaller, not smaller, but less wide culvert within the footprint of the existing culvert, which will, with the exception of the roof, stay in place and be abandoned in place. So there is a slight reduction from 400 square feet of land under water body to 360 square feet of land under water body, but the bank length will stay the same. As you said, we're using erosion control around the site. We don't really anticipate any material stockpile areas because of how limited this area is and how much of the more material is being taken away than is going to be put back. So we anticipate the contractor will remove everything. But like I don't know if you mentioned, but this has not been bid yet. We don't have a contractor on site yet. So a lot of the means and methods haven't exactly been determined, and a lot of that will be left to the contractor, but we do have requirements in there to use erosion control around any stockpile areas around the full site. They must be maintained throughout construction. They will be required to submit an erosion control plan for us to review. And as we talked at the site yesterday, we encourage you to review and approve that plan, as well as the water control plan. Like you said, we are suggesting or proposing a sandbag dike using the existing culvert that kind of juts out into the lake a little bit as the water control. But again, the contractor will provide a water control plan with all of the pumps that he plans on using and equipment he plans on using and how he plans on doing that for us to review and approve, as well as for the Conservation Commission if you require that condition. And I think that's it. We did look at some other alternatives. There was really no build alternative. Obviously, this is the first step in reopening Elm Street, replacing those two bridges, removing the MassDOT closure of these bridges. So in order to open it back up, the goal is, to replace them. There really wasn't a repair option. They're in really bad condition. We don't know too much about them. They're in this particular culvert. It's in bad shape, and so really the only option was what we ended up coming up with of placing the new culvert inside the old one. For cost and impact reasons, we really didn't want to span across the existing culvert because it would be very costly and have much more impacts to the dam and wetland resources. So in terms of stormwater report, we're basically carrying the same strategies that we used from the original proposal, which was approved. We're extending it additional 30 feet. We're maintaining the existing stormwater management, which is consistent with DEP's stormwater management requirements. And I think that's about it.
Sidewalks,
Oh yes, sorry. So yeah, roadway work is essentially replacing the roadway as is, but there will be the addition of 2 concrete sidewalks on each side of the bridge, each side of the roadway, that's consistent with MassDOT's accessibility requirements. So there will be a reduction in an increase in impervious area of the site of sorry, let me check my notes. 170 square feet of the 1,400 square foot project area.
okay. Thank you. Questions on the board? Kwame?
I think you mentioned something about the erosion control, but you don't know what the contractor is going to give you, right?
So we are recommending on our plans, we're showing silt fence and straw wattles around the area when we're doing when we're doing anything in the water outside of the time of year restrictions. We will be using, we're recommending they use floating siltation barriers, what you typically see for a project like this. So like I said, a lot of that is means and methods, but we are, we're specifying, we're calling out on our plans for silt fence and straw bottle where it's where we feel it's necessary.
Yeah, the plan does show proposed compost mulch filter tubes, which is more substantial than the straw wattles. Typically, we don't like to see the straw wattles because they're really not that significant in terms of what they do to help prevent the erosion. So the compost mulch filter tubes are a little thicker and beefier. So either that or hay bales are typically what we would specify. So we'll put that in the conditions.
Great. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, I'm glad the engineers that did that plan are ahead of me on that.
Jay, what were they called again?
Compost mulch filter tubes.
Thank you. Mary, any questions?
No, I think they answered them yesterday at the meeting.
Carol?
No questions.
Michael?
Where stockpile material might be stored. Do we know where the construction equipment might also be stored, say during overnight hours basically during overnight hours?
Yes, in the construction plans for the very first bridge, which I'm not sure if we included in this NOI, there is actually, no, I believe they're also in this plan package that we have. We do have, it's actually more of a traffic control plan for Swan Lane, because obviously traffic down Swan Lane needs to be maintained during construction. So we do have guideline for the contractor of where they're able to stage their equipment and how much of the roadway they can take up during construction hours, and then once construction is ended for the day, what limits they have to maintain their construction. And so essentially it will be, I don't know if it's worth me sharing my screen with you, or if you can just look at the plans, but there is a construction site plan that shows those limits. Like I said, most of the construction equipment will be kept on the west side of the two bridges towards Elm Street
Okay,
during
thank you.
construction hours. Yep.
Elissa?
The only question I have is that you have a white fence there, and I imagine you're going to have to change that fence. Will you be just making the whole area with the fence so that in the end, we don't have 3 different kinds of fencing, put up in that area?
We are in keeping in with requirements for MassDOT, bridge standards. We are replacing the white fencing along the dam and along the opposite side of the roadway with crash-rated timber rails, which I believe we talked with the Conservation Commission the first time when we were deciding on a material for the first bridge, and we carried that along through the second bridge. We can't continue that further along the dam simply because of the limitations. This is a MassDOT funded small bridge program, which is focused on the replacement of the bridges. So the funds for these replacements really have to be focused towards the culverts and only what's necessary to replace the culverts. So we are going to make it as easy as possible to replace those with the same type of timber crash-rated guardrail when and if the town decides to, continue dam repairs or redoing the rest of the roadway there. But for the purpose of this project, it's really just maintained to that site.
So when you're done with this project, people will be able to drive down the road.
When
Not
I
our
don't
decision.
I don't know all of the reasons. I can't speak to all of the reasons why Elm Street was closed. The two reasons that led to the closure were these 2 bridges, and replacing them will remove Mass DOT's restrictions of using those for vehicle traffic. However, I don't know for sure if the town is going to be comfortable reopening that roadway just because of the condition of the dam itself. But this is the first step towards reopening that roadway and redeveloping that downtown, which I know is the town's intention with this.
They closed it.
Okay.
Yep.
Matthew, what's the time frame from beginning the project to completion? Just for the record, 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
I don't want to.
Estimate.
Best estimate, I would probably say 3 months total for the completion of the 2 projects. Obviously, with the time of year restrictions, it makes it a little bit more difficult to schedule. But I would say a couple of maybe 3 weeks for each bridge itself to be completed, followed by the construction of the roadways and the sidewalks and rails. So I would say roughly 3 months, I would estimate.
Okay. The time restriction is for that portion with the fish ladder.
Correct.
Do you have that same time restriction for the piece we're talking about now?
The time restriction was for putting anything like a floating siltation barrier
Okay.
in the water. So we wouldn't
It's
put
for-
anything in the water and do anything like that during the time of year restrictions, but we would be doing out of water work, roadway work, and sidewalk work, outside of those restrictions, yes, or within those restrictions, yes. Does that answer?
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Sandy, the time of year restriction on the first bridge that was permitted, that's something we put in our conditions. I'm recommending we put the same thing in terms of the time of year restriction on this one as well, just so they're consistent. So that's part of what I'm recommending for conditions on that.
What is
Okay.
it again, David?
March
that?
15th to June 15th?
Right.
Is there anybody online that would like to speak for or against this project?
I just had a question.
And who are you, please?
It's Joe Falconeri.
Okay,
And I was wondering, have you guys ever considered taking out that dam?
yes, it's being considered.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
We don't know. There's a lot of talk been going around for both dams, the Tremont and this one, but funding's an issue.
Okay.
So it is on the plate for several people that are constantly looking at it. And I'm looking at my husband who's waving his hand because it's one of his projects.
I know some contacts that have done well regionally, taking out dams in other towns. So we'll have to
Yes.
talk. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Joe. Anybody
Thank you.
else?
Beth Lambert, the state.
Yeah, anybody else? If not,
Before we close, I would just like to go over my list of recommended conditions, and then the board can ask further questions or just make decisions from there.
okay,
So I would recommend that there be a condition in place to have a dewatering plan be submitted to the commission for their review and approval prior to any dewatering activities. Condition for the time of year restriction, as I mentioned, that any stockpiling that's done is to be, if it's done at the site, has to be on the paved area of the closed section of Elm Street, and that all removed materials from the construction demolition be removed from the site and disposed of off-site.
and the use of compost mulch filter tubes?
Yeah, the erosion control is part of our standard conditions.
Yep. And a water control plan approved before they start. And erosion control plan before they start. And I want to make sure that there is erosion control around all the material that is stored on the street.
In the time of year restriction.
But yeah, you mentioned that from
Yeah.
March 15th to June 15th.
Right.
So I think that's our motion.
Well, first you got to close.
Oh, we haven't closed the hearing? Okay,
Close.
all right, I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Kwame,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael, Elissa,
Yes.
Sandy. The hearing is closed.
I move that we accept this project with the stipulations that we have hay bales, silk fences, or compost mulch filters. That the work be done between March 15th and June 15th.
That the work not be done
Not
during
be
that
done.
time.
Excuse me.
In the water,
In the water.
in
Right.
the water.
The dewatering plan be brought before the Conservation Commission before anybody does it. Any stockpiling will be on paved areas, and they'll remove anything that they dig up.
Yes.
I think you got it all. That's the motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor. Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Elissa,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, so you got it. Good luck on getting a contractor.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Matt, good night. Continued hearings. We have a continued hearing for a Tom Parento. They have requested that the hearing be continued until April 7th. Is there anybody that wanted to speak to this project before we continue? Hearing none, I'd like to someone needs to make a motion to continue until April 7th.
To, April 7th.
That's the
Second.
motion. I heard a second. All in favor, Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael, Elissa,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, it's continued until April 7th. The next hearing is the town of Wareham, Horsley Witten Group, Bessie Park. Anybody here for that project?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey,
as well.
Great.
Michelle West and Amy Ball from Horsey Wing Group.
Very good. What were we waiting for?
We were waiting for the Board of Selectmen to discuss this at their meeting last week. And
Board of Selectmen, can you come here a minute, please? Oh, he didn't, he's off in another meeting, but I
That's okay.
believe they supported the project.
they did. I gave a similar presentation that I gave at our last Conservation Commission hearing, and there was some discussion, but they did vote to approve moving forward with the project.
So we have the town being selectmen approving the project. I guess the question has to be, Dave, did you want to read?
Yeah, I'll just briefly
more
go over
time?
the project intent, and then we can go from there. But yes, this project is at Bessie Park. It involves the installation of stormwater treatment structures in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and within a coastal flood zone at Bessie Park. So this is a project that's done in collaboration with the Buzzards Bay National Estuaries Project. And the town is proposing to do stormwater remediation that will improve the treatment of stormwater coming out of the two existing outfall pipes at Bessie Park. So there are stormwater bioretention basins proposed, an oil grit separator, new manhole structures, and new connection pipes. So as we heard at previous meetings, there was some question about the overall design. Some folks had some additional questions, and the selectmen wanted to get some further detail, which obviously we've heard has occurred. I don't have any further questions about the project. We do have a DEP file number for the project, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions based on the plan that we have, with the added conditions, again, that if there's any dewatering to be done, that we get that planned for us to review and approve prior to the dewatering activities commencing at the site. And also that the project would have to be maintained in accordance with the stormwater maintenance plan that was submitted.
That would be maintained by the town, David?
Yes.
Michelle, anything to add?
No, I think that covers it.
Amy, anything?
I think we're good there.
I sure, okay, excuse me. I have a cat in the way. I am concerned about the maintenance schedule. Did we get a buy off from Wareham Municipal Maintenance? They've agreed to it?
They reviewed the information, so
So we can hold Menard to it. He reviewed it and didn't comment on it.
Well, I think also initially when this project concept was proposed, it was understood that there was going to be maintenance required of these structures, and the town signed on to that knowing that ahead of time. So I believe they're aware of the fact that they're going to have to do some maintenance here.
And maintenance could very well be removing the trash before it flows out into the water. Weeding, did I hear something else? Trash, weeding, what else?
the most important thing will be to remove the sediment and trash, as you mentioned, from the sediment forebays. So there's a couple of very discrete locations shown on the plan where the most frequent maintenance will be needed. And then in the basins themselves, like you mentioned, there might be some weeding and cutting back of vegetation over the year.
Okay,
And
those
the oil grit separator too would have to
Yes.
be cleaned out every now and again.
Yes, yep.
and the sediment controls are the two pieces on either side of where they park their cars. Right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
The hatched areas.
and just plain trash. I know, it was suggested at the selectmen's meeting that someone contact the garden club to do the weeding of the weeding, and I laughed.
Yeah, there you go.
If that's to happen, they've got to come before the garden club and not just Alyssa and myself. Is there any way we can get a list of planting that's a little bit more, should I say, regional? I mean, I like the idea of a goldenrod, but this is a hybrid one.
So your
I would just-
question is if you don't want it to be a variant?
I would prefer to have as much natural regional planting as possible. I mean, I like the Laetris. That's a nice little look. And I do like to have, I'm doing more and more goldenrod in my yard.
Is
I
that
don't know.
rod that people are allergic to, Sandy?
I have no idea.
That's
It-
right.
I'm gonna have to, might have to step in on that one.
Thank you, Amy.
So goldenrods are actually not something that people are allergic to. They have those bright, pretty, showy flowers, the yellow flowers, that attract insects. The type of pollen, and their pollen is large, just so that it sticks to their legs. The type of pollen that most people are allergic to is really small and it's airborne. The fallacy sort of comes about because ragweed and goldenrod flower at the same time of year. And so the poor goldenrods do get a bad rap.
Okay, thank you.
We can certainly look into the straight species of goldenrod. We're very, I mean, we always use native plants. And if we can-
Whenever, yeah, I would
Yeah.
prefer whenever possible, even piece of meat. Oh, why can't we have milkweed in there? Amy,
You
Uh,
could, you
we need
could, but they do have to make sure that they can tolerate a certain amount of,
salt.
temporary, well, perhaps
Yes.
salt, but temporary flooding and drying out all at the same
Oh,
time.
okay, I'm
Yes.
just thinking of what I can do for our butterflies and other insects that would like to bring into the area.
Absolutely. And milkweed could be used perhaps on the edges, but not down in the basin
Oh,
itself.
no, not down, no, just, okay, that was it. That was my comment to the board. Kwame? Any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Mary?
No question.
Carol?
No questions.
Michael?
No questions. Thank you.
You
Elissa?
talked about table and picnic area. Is that still in the plan somewhere?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, who's the pointer?
there was
Oh, no, that's the,
yes, the
over the other
bench. The bench is relocated, but there is also a picnic table that is just being shifted over to the side, over by the large bioretention to the right. So it's shifted over right
It has a lot of lines on it.
further to the right.
There you
That
go.
one.
That's it. That's the picnic table that's going to be moved. Anything else? Okay, is there anybody on the line that would like to speak for or against or any questions on this project? I just want to make sure that municipal maintenance, I want to make sure that we put these conditions in our standard order of conditions, that they follow the maintenance schedule and include the 3 things we just talked about. So we're going to close the hearing. I need a motion.
I move that we close the hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Elissa,
Yes.
Sandy. Yes, the hearing is closed.
Great.
Someone
Thank you
wants to
very
take a
much.
stab at the order of conditions?
So I move that we accept the project and that we speak with maintenance to reiterate the 3 areas that are most crucial to be cleaned out. And that includes the oil and somebody can help me here.
Oil separator,
The oil
remove the
separator.
trash from the bio areas, and removal of the sediment.
From,
The sediment forebays.
thank you.
Thank you. And that a dewatering plan is provided prior to start of the work.
Yes, and also, and that our regular rules and regulations about slow releasing nitrogen and all that are also followed.
Yep, our standard order of conditions.
Yes. And so we accept the project with these.
Okay. That's the motion.
Second,
I have a second. All in favor, Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
yes.
Michael, Elissa, Sandy, done. There you go. Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Michelle.
much.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Have a good
Welcome.
evening.
Have a good
You too.
evening. Bye-bye.
Before you start anything, make sure you work with Mr. Pichette, okay?
Of course, thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, next continued hearing is the peak contractors have asked for an extension until March 3rd.
I move that we extend this until March 3rd.
Second.
That's the motion. I heard a second. Is there anybody on the line that wanted to speak for or against this project? All right, so I'll do a roll call. Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael, Elissa, Sandy, it's continued until the 3rd of March. Next project is Jim Duffy. Is there anybody here for this project?
Yes, Rick Grady from Grady Consulting, and Jim Duffy's on the line as well.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette?
Okay, let me just get this up here. Okay, so this project site is at 46 Winship Ave. And this project involves the construction of additions and proposed patio in the buffer zone to a coastal bank at this site. At the last meeting, we'd also learned and discussed the fact that there's already been site work that's been done at this property, and the construction of the additions that are shown as proposed additions. Those are already constructed prior to the commission having issued any order of conditions for that work. The other thing that was discussed at the last meeting in relation to the proposed patio was to have some remediation for stormwater for that, and they have submitted a revised plan which does show a crushed stone trench along the edge of the patio as seen here to account for that as requested by the commission. So at this stage, we do have a DEP file number, and the commission can issue an order of conditions for this work. And I would also recommend, as I did previously, that there be some fines issued because of the fact that this work was done prior to any Conservation Commission approvals. And according to the revised plan that we have in front of us tonight.
Okay. Rick, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, very briefly, the fines, we agree with the commission and concede that they're appropriate. So the fines discussed at the last hearing are acceptable, and we apologize for any inconvenience that caused. We believe the crushed stone trench addresses the only outstanding item left from the last meeting.
Thank you. Just for the record, the fine was $300 to the homeowner and $300 to the contractor for starting work before approval was issued. Questions from the board? Kwame,
None at this time. Thank you.
Mary,
No question.
Carol,
No questions.
Michael,
No questions.
Elissa.
Dave, what was the outcome of the landscaping that had to be put back?
So the area that was altered was primarily lawn area, and so that is what they're proposing to reestablish. So I believe they're just going to have to loam that and seed it and or sod, depending on what they wish to put in there. But it would be more or less restored to what it was previously.
Just nicer.
Yeah, just potentially nicer, and also restoring the grades to what they were originally as well. I don't know that the grades have changed significantly, but if there's any areas where that has occurred, then, not saying they need to go crazy with it, but they should remove anywhere where they've changed the grades that aren't represented on the plan.
Okay. Is there anybody online that would like to speak for or against or question with this particular project? I'm hearing none.
Shall we close the hearing?
I need a motion to close the hearing. Yes.
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael, Elissa, Sandy, the hearing is closed.
We'll make a motion that we accept this project with 2 fines of $300 each, one to the contractor, one to the owner, and that the owner has to replace the landscaping to how it was prior to their work there. Anything else, David?
No, just that and the standard conditions, and I think that will cover it.
Yep, because slow releasing low nitrogen fertilizer is part of our standard conditions now. Okay, so that's the motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Elissa,
Jane?
Sandy. Yes, done. Okay? See
Thank you,
Mr.
everyone.
Bichette before you start any of that work, okay? Get your
Yeah, so
paperwork.
now we'll issue the order of conditions, and once you have that, then obviously you can carry on with that over there.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Jim. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay,
Good
Thanks.
night.
Night.
the next continued hearing of Samuel Mello has requested a continuance until March 3rd.
I move that we continue Samuel Mello till March 3rd.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael, Elissa,
Yes.
Sandy. It's continued until March 3rd. The next continued hearing is Borrego Solar System. They have requested a continuance until March 3rd, but I will ask if there's anybody on the line that would like to speak regarding this project that has not spoken at the last meeting.
Why, you're only allowing new speakers now?
Well, we've heard it before. There's nothing, if you want to continue to repeat what they've already said.
No, I don't mean that they have to repeat. I'm just saying, I don't think we can technically restrict somebody from speaking at a
Okay.
public hearing.
All right.
But it doesn't sound like we have any comments anyway, so.
We,
Oh, Mary, the cat wants attention.
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion to continue until March 3rd.
so moved.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, Kwame,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Elissa, Sandy. It's continued. Okay, certification of compliance.
I'm still waiting for some info on that, so I would just like to hold off on that again at this point.
Okay. Are we set? Anybody have anything before we say goodnight? Are we done?
We're done.
I think we're pretty much done. Just say welcome to Michael and Kwame as being full voting members now, so that's good.
Good job.
Very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
So take a motion to adjourn at 7:20.
So
Well,
moved.
Motion to adjourn.
I heard the motion. I heard a second. All in favor, just say aye.
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 Thank you,
Good night,
Sandy.
everybody. Thank you.
Good night. See everybody on the 3rd.